Welcome to the Wall Up Hero thing that is normally a podcast, but is actually not a podcast because now it's like an interview.
Now it's full-on interview, recorded on video and whatnot.
You should not speak anymore because we actually have a guest.
Okay.
And you might know him because he runs a very popular website by the name Bridge To Gantry. But the only reason that he's actually here is because both me, him, and him own the MX-5s. So it's
Correct.
Basically the only thing that counts.
This is why we are here in the first place. We will only talk about his experience with this MX-5 NA. No, not really. But Dale, nice to see you. Welcome.
Hey, mate.
Welcome to the One Lap Heroes podcast, discussing car news from the Nürburgring for real track addicts.
For those that don't know you, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name's Dale. I run a website called Bridge To Gantry, and I think most people know me for that. I've also, moved over to the Nürburgring back in 2007, and just had this dream to live and race at the Nürburgring. And back when it was a dream, I was a guy working in an office, downloading videos off FTP sites to watch people's laps. And when I got the chance to move over here, I did. And that's 13 years ago.
I think this story feels very familiar. No?
Very cool. Yeah, it feels familiar because it's eventually is what we all did. Even though later in life or later in the years. But I have to say that for you, I for sure it would have been a bit different for you, because for me, to some extent, your website was a reason why I was interested in the place and I came here. I was a reader first of all, and
that's fantastic. So you owe me like 5% of all your driving fees or something?
Okay.
Is that it?
That's exactly how you do it.
we will discuss the details about it.
Okay. We'll check the contract.
Chat later.
Common law.
But no, seriously, jokes aside, I think that this experience must have been different for you because to some extent you shaped a little bit the scene. You were the first guy here. Actually, you were the only one here doing media stuff.
And my scene was shaped by the websites that I used to visit. So if you go all the way back, right, 1998, I'm 18 years old, I'm playing Grand Prix Legends.
Okay.
And I find this stupid racetrack that's 20 kilometers long, and I'm like, I'm sure I've seen something on TV about this. I'll check the internet, and I find this mailing list for the Nürburgring.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, cool. So the Nürburgring's still open and you can still drive it. That sounds pretty cool. And I was going down to the Alps on my motorbike. So I was 18, got my first motorbike. I paid for it with cash. I was like, I'm going to go around Europe. I didn't know that I technically wasn't allowed to, but you don't know these things like that. Anyway, so I had my fresh driving license. I decided I'm going to go down to the Alps. And then there's the Grand Prix Legends thing. There's the fact that I've found these BBS internet boards where they're saying, the Nürburgring's open every day. Common myth.
Yeah.
It was still the same 23 years ago.
It is an extreme oversimplification of what it actually is, but
every day. So it's 1998.
That you haven't managed to debunk.
Not yet. Despite all of your efforts.
After 10 or 15 years of
23 years, and I've not managed to debunk that myth. So of course, dickhead here rolls up to the gates of the Nürburgring and it's closed. And I'm like, when does it open? And they say it opens tomorrow. Oh, cool. What time? 5 o'clock. What? I'm supposed to be in the Alps. I think, fuck it. I'll wait. So I sleep under the motorbike because I'd arrived at stupid o'clock and I didn't have any money and I was just my life was an ongoing train wreck at that point. So I just decided to sleep under the bike. Then I find a cafe, blah, blah, blah. Get on the track at 5 o'clock. How I don't die, I have no idea, because I used to just wheelie everywhere. I used to do stoppies at every red light, and I just used to crash my bike at least once a month.
Okay. Like every other 18 years old ever. So.
And this old guy with like a withered arm comes up to me in the car park, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Robin. you look English, you've got English plates. I'm like, yeah, I'm English, yeah. He says, why don't you follow me for a lap? And I'm like looking at this little old man. He's got a withered arm because he's had a nerve damage. So he's got an arm like a piece of string. And he's riding this little VFR 400 one-handed. And I'm like, yeah, I can follow this old guy. Turns out I can't follow that old guy. Turns out that the Nürburgring has a thing called a racing line. And that if you actually stick to this line, you'll go faster around the corners. And that was it. I was hooked. Never made it to the Alps. 2-week holiday to go to the Alps ended here. And I spent all my money on lap tickets and fuel. And even though the lap tickets, I think, were the equivalent of, in euros, they were like €9 or something, like €8.
So those are still back in the days of Deutschmarks and
yeah. And it was 98 or 99. It was the first couple of weeks that the new tourist spot was open. So that dates it. And that was it. I decided right there and then that I was coming back like next month. And that was it. Like by 2004, I was coming here like once a month, twice a month sometimes. By 2006, I was working all summer here. And that's how I met Ron.
Okay. That's a cool story.
Actually, this adds a little bit of reference in like how for every generation their trip to the Nürburgring is also quite different, you know. Because this track has actually come in and out of the spotlight multiple times through the years. In the 90s, you know, they actually spectated here. Yeah. So 2 generations before, they actually saw it again, almost disappear. Then people saw Grand Prix racing. Also, I would say for us, like growing in the 90s, for example, you would see like the Nürburgring not appear at all, like in European press. And then you will see like the Japanese people coming here with best motoring and testing cars and having this fixation. Yeah. And I say this many times, you know this, but maybe Dale doesn't. Like we owe a little bit of this to the fixation of the Japanese people with the ring, both for like creating this Gran Turismo generation, but also the actual press coming here and the manufacturers pushing into it, and maybe a little bit, you know, like even pushing the European manufacturers. Maybe they wouldn't be testing today if there wasn't this.
No, actually, because Porsche has done it forever, but they never marketed the fact that they were doing it. It was their testing grounds effectively, but they never actually actively marketed it like they would do today. And I think. Like
if you roll back to the mid-90s, so I had a good spell of time working at Jaguar, and inside Jaguar, the tail of the XJ220 taking the lap record at the Nürburgring, I mean, that's 1993. Danish driver, can't remember his name right now. I'm really sorry, Danish driver, who's probably quite famous.
I doubt he's watching this though, so you're safe.
You never know. Don't treat our audience like this.
It's a small family when you start talking about Jaguars, and like everybody's like sending it. Oh, they were talking about Jaguars on this YouTube video.
They were talking about you, but didn't remember your name. Go in the comments and shout at them.
All I can think of is Magnussen, and I know it's not Magnussen. So anyway. So mid-90s, when you think about like Nissan and how much time and money and effort they were spending here with the R33, the R34, and Jaguar as well, because I think the XJ220 had its lap record taken off it by the R34 Nürspec. So you look at that and you look at best motoring and you know, hot option, hot version even, and all those guys. And I mean, without those guys, I wouldn't have been able to get the access to the track that I had from home in the UK. And I wanted to touch on that. You say that you saw Bridge To Gantry, and that kind of like helped feed the addiction, right? When you're at home and you can't get any Nürburgring, you're like looking to shoot up on Nürburgring, right? Yeah. And for me, I was shooting up on the Japanese videos. I got my best motoring subscription on DVD, like opening up this crazy little cardboard. And
I still have DVDs.
Yeah, you know, like with a cardboard backing sheet that was like the front cover of a magazine, and it was telling you in all these Japanese words what was happening. I had no idea.
Exactly.
Same here.
No idea. So I'm like, I just like get it through the post, open up the Jiffy bag, and I go, oh wow, Honda S2000, R33. I had no idea that it was saying, you know, buying guide or hot lap or whatever. And they used to love the Nürburgring, you know, constantly. And Honda as well used to do lots of stuff here. And I was on a forum, a UK forum called northloop.co.uk.
You know this one.
And that was my kind of access. And also I was a big biker, and there's this lovely guy called Joran Syme. And he was a Danish guy who got fixated on the Nürburgring. And he got into this weird habit. He videoed every lap. Lap 1, lap 2, lap 3. Unfortunately, lap 103, he died. So, spoiler alert.
Please.
Yeah, this place, right? So, and weirdly, none of that put me off. I just decided I wanted to do it.
I think that is quite common because it never happens to us.
Yeah, right.
I don't even
From
think.
your own perspective as a human being, your story is infinite.
Yeah, we are still. Actually, we all live. But
Yeah.
these are funny things. Like we all genuinely live, like we will live forever. But it's clear that we are not living forever. But as human beings, we are like weird and.
For me, I also find it a bit funny because, for example, for all of us to be able to move here, we actually need this resurrection of the place, and we need all this traffic. So even small things that, like sometimes what petrol heads might be a bit snobbery about, like the whole Sabine thing, and Top Gear, all these things, for example, for like real gamers, Gran Turismo is not like a real game, and we only do the Sims, but all these things come and collide together and create this wave that actually, when it is here, it can support all of us living here, because there are a few works for people like us that are very passionate and are willing to sacrifice anything, live poor your whole life to do this. But even that requires all this wave, all these things to come together, and it's very funny how it changes. If we were living in the 80s, there's a possibility we wouldn't be here.
But I have a funny story which is not Nürburgring related, which touches on hot version option and Gran Turismo, because I remember my brother got the first PlayStation, right? And that was my first time I could play Gran Turismo. And I played Gran Turismo and I said, but this is not, because I was always in motorsport. So, and I played Gran Turismo and there were like these races where you had like different road cars racing together. And I said, but this is so unrealistic and this will never happen in real life. And then eventually I watched a DVD of Hot Version and they were actually doing it in real life in Japan, and I said, this is where they got the idea. Like, Gran Turismo is effectively a video game about Hot Version.
Totally.
Exactly. It's
the best motoring and hot version.
Correct.
It's both of them. It's the standard cars, which I love. When you're playing Gran Turismo and you just take the totally standard car with the totally standard tyres and you make it scream the whole way around the track, and you think, this is great, this is good fun. And then you start Turbo Stage 1, Turbo Stage 2. And it is just best motoring and hot version, the simulator.
I believe this certainly destroyed like a generation of car guys. You actually did this in Gran Turismo and then you thought, I will do this in real life. I will do this in real life.
This made a lot of people poor.
In real life, it is my ambition, my goal, that we recreate the hot version best motoring format on the Nordschleife with 6 to 7 fun guys who can really drive a car and trade places without smashing wing mirrors.
I absolutely
that would be
fun. You don't know how many times I have actually said this to the guys. And I'm really sorry, I will just jump a little bit ahead in time and then we can go back into it. But for me, I find it a little bit painful, and this is gonna lead to something that we want to discuss, like current state of media. Yeah. But I find it a little bit painful, like you would have like in the 90s with much less resources, you would have these Japanese teams coming here and making these epic films with cameras at different places, and you would have like 911s jumping in Flats Garden by Japanese media and NSXs and Skylines and all this stuff. And
even the roof lap.
Exactly, and even the roof lap, even earlier, and the Sabine lap, like properly filmed. One of the reasons that I think people don't realize how cool the Nürburgring is because you don't see material that actually does this great place justice. And when you see it in like a couple of all these things that we are discussing, and then I come to 2021 that we have all this technology and we have all these resources, and the majority of material that comes out of this place is junk.
No, because
I said it, so you don't have to say it.
This is a bit funny, and it's not about being negative about it, but it's a statement of fact.
I didn't mean. I will clarify because it's my statement, and we'll let Dale weigh in. But I didn't mean that the material per se is junk. I mean that what currently is being required for someone producing media at any level, from like even magazine budgets have been like slashed again. If that magazine is still alive, because the possibility is that it's probably closed. But it's the nature of the beast. What is required is quick stuff, easy stuff.
But now, at the current stage, of course, the Nürburgring has evolved to some extent that even something like Top Gear, like the section of Top Gear, they wouldn't be able to do it.
No.
Probably not.
No. I mean, I think, there's a few brands,
If Top Gear wants to do it,
wants to do it, maybe Nürburgring would let them. No. They wouldn't let that happen.
That all happened in Tuition.
Yeah, I was there. I mean, the day that they were ragging the XJ around, I was there. The day that they were at the XF, the day that they did the van lap record, I was riding my bike. I overtook that van like several times, and I remember thinking to myself, "What the fuck is going on here?" And then I looked in and I saw like lights and lights in the cockpit. They're filming, whatevs. And I didn't really notice it because that thing was bombing around in 10 minutes. And back then I was doing 7.5 on a fucking bike. So I just noticed it as a whoosh as I went past. But now if they wanted to do that again, like you said, no chance. Keine Chance.
Yeah, they would have to rent the whole track.
Yeah, rent the whole track, 15,000 euros.
And then it would not, anyway, no matter how they would slash it, it would not be the same because the cool thing was that you could come and every day it's open,
So I had a really awesome experience. Guy Martin, who you might know, everybody knows Guy Martin, right?
Everyone loves Guy Martin.
So van lap record, he wants to beat it. He had it in his head that it was just going to be from day one. The assumption would be like doing the Sabine film, and of course, in the first 30 seconds of researching that, they're like, "Oh shit, we've got to rent the whole track now."
Yeah.
And we had an awesome time. He built an amazing, crazy, some might say dangerous, van.
Dangerous for us or dangerous for him?
Dangerous for him as well. Everybody around. But really, really awesome story. And, they engineered that van themselves and it's mid-engined and everything that's so cool about it. But ultimately, it lacked a bit of reality because we had to budget 15 grand to rent the track for an hour. So you're putting all this pressure on taking this. So that's cool for the video, right? That you're putting the pressure on the team. Shit, we've got to do this lap time. I hope that cloud doesn't open. I hope that everything's dry. But on the other side, you're just alone on the track and you're just driving around. Whereas when Sabine did it, it was
a crazy thing.
It's a snapshot.
Politically correctness kills a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I personally find it very funny because we went and this is maybe a small critique in everything, not just cars. But we went politically correctness up tenfold, so everything has to be kind of politically correct.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the nature of the beast requires clickbait, clickbait to the end of times. And
those are conflicting points.
Why you have YouTubers going to jail and stuff like that, and that idiot, that Logan guy who went and filmed people committing suicide. It's at what point do you think you've maybe crossed a line? I mean, that's the thing, right? So we're politically correct, and at BTG you may have noticed a slight tone shift in the last 2 years because I enjoy actually being allowed on the track. There is this line, isn't there? And it's we're talking about that Logan Paul thing just there with him filming people hanging themselves in a forest, and there's a line, and if I go close to that line, I get beaten from a million sides. But then you go so far over the line, you go on the other side, and you either go to jail or you get a million clicks. Or both.
Yeah.
But exactly, I think it's kind of both, and I believe that
it's don't go to the supermarket and steal something. Go to the bank and rob the bank for 10 million.
Yeah.
So actually, that used to be like that.
Yeah.
No, but I think it changes a little, in my humble opinion, it changes a little bit how also we experience things, in the sense that you start sort of experiencing that. Is this the moment that I should experience this, or this is the moment that there is a good headline or a good title happening and I have to do this? So I believe that there's a new generation breeding that when they see something like that happening around them, and it could include cool experiences, not only negative shit, but they think, okay, that would make a cool video title. And of course, this translates much deeper to everything we create and everything we consume. Because also we want to blame sometimes this guy is an idiot. Actually, this specific guy, Logan Paul, he might be an idiot. But thank God that we're such a small channel. But just to say, someone is consuming it, so someone is clicking on it.
Yeah.
So we cannot completely.
It's I told you about this. Yeah. It's there is a very interesting interview on YouTube. A Jerry Seinfeld interview where he says that because he always got this question when he was doing his stand-ups. He says, is this the best you can do? And why don't you make a joke about that? And why don't you make a joke about whatever? and he says, every time I do a stand-up show, I'm doing the absolute best I can. Like, there is not a better version of what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is the best version that I can do. So the critiques coming from, why don't you do something else?
Because you want to watch this.
Because I'm doing the best I can. And he also added to the point that he was not doing what he wanted, but he was doing sort of a mix of what he wanted and what he knew it would work. So like, he actually mentioned, if I would only do what I wanted, nobody would watch this.
Yeah.
So like, and this is why the media, I think that this is why a little bit of like self-critic approach when you are consuming media is relevant, because sometimes we are not getting what we want, and we are not getting what the artist or the creator wants either. We are getting a sort of a version of it which is accepted, because eventually the creator has to do something that appeals. It's like similar to cars. The ND is not the MX-5 I want, and it's probably not the MX-5 Mazda wants either. It's a mixture of.
I like the ND.
It's a mixture of what Mazda could do and what Mazda could sell and what buyers would buy, and it doesn't work for me. But it's like I think there's a good parallel here.
I've got 2 points. Number one, going back to what you said about a generation that is thinking from a third person point of view.
Yeah.
They're like playing Fortnite right now, okay? They're not living their life looking through their own eyeballs. They're living their life imagining what their life looks like.
Correct.
And second guessing. And there are people in this very village who live their entire online life like totally fake. It's not what they are, it's not who they are, it's not what they actually do, it's not what they're like to hang around with and enjoy a beer and a pizza with. They're somebody completely different online. And I do try to avoid that as much as possible.
Yeah.
It's
the same, man.
Self-deprecation is absolutely key, because even when you you win your class, you win the championship, whatever, you need to have a laugh about it, because you're just the lucky motherfucker that everything came right for.
Absolutely.
And the number of times, and anybody who's raced will totally understand when I say this, the number of times you could have won vastly
outnumbers the times you won.
Yeah, actually, exactly.
I say this often. People say, because I got relatively lucky, I must say, and people say, but look at your track record. You won so many races, and I said, I've lost many more.
Yeah.
So for every time you see me happy because I'm celebrating a win, 10 times I was leaving the track disappointed.
And that's what I'm talking about. And that's what you were talking about, Kostas, with the new generation of people that they're playing their life from the third-person camera right now, and they're thinking, how does it look? So they never post any of their failures.
Absolutely.
But the failures are what makes it fun when it wins.
Absolutely.
And as a storytelling device, whether this is video or a magazine article or something, you need the failures to make the victory sweeter. So it kind of annoys the out of me when I just see the story of a local brand or a local business without any failures at all. It's just like,
so you know for
come
a fact
back and try harder.
You know for a fact that it's not real, first of all. But there is no space for the truth on the internet.
But so for me, this is why I think this is a very interesting conversation, and I know that we do it separately, and I'm pretty sure that you do it in your daily life quite often, and I'm pretty sure that the people that we describe, which some of them are also our friends, they do it in other aspects of their life, but this is happening around us.
You might do it in your Instagram feed.
You might exactly. No, you might do it. You might do it in your ring trip.
Everybody does it.
In your
I
ring
do
trip.
it.
So I think this is something that has to be discussed. And if you don't put it on the table, and if you don't think, I believe also a lot of these people carry it as a burden. We for example, we very often try to say we are who we are. We understand this is not for everyone. This is and it's 100% acceptable. Clearly, but at the same time, you at least don't have the burden that there's two identities and two ways to sell your stuff. And looking at this place specifically, my humble opinion was that people are taking themselves too seriously.
Way too serious.
And way too seriously. No matter what is your achievement, or your goal or how driven you are and what you want to achieve. Because also, let's be honest, if this is an honest conversation, a lot of people are here to hustle, and that is also acceptable. Is not what I like, but it's acceptable. And some people need to hustle, so we can actually even come into this. But in my humble opinion, we said it with Gab, this place has too much seriousness. So I think what is actually needed is one step back and a little bit to the values that got us originally here. So this is why I think it's very cool that you started from how you ended up here.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Let me speak up.
I respect the origin story. I wouldn't come here like you did, you know?
Okay.
So like I respect that a lot more.
Yeah.
Like
I love it, by the way.
I also love the place and everything, but for me it was like more of a conscious decision due to the circumstances of my life rather than I love it so much that
You did but better than both of us, clearly.
But I was coming here for fun and, you know, wanting to come here, and that was driving me. And I was sitting at my office and I was like writing articles for the newspaper I used to work for, and I'd be downloading Joran's latest lap at the same time. And when it was finished downloading, because, you know, 100 megabytes, right? When that had finished downloading, I'd watch it. And I was lucky in the fact that my job and my career took me to this point where I was in charge of road testing, and I was like, well, there's only one racetrack to use for this. I want to take my magazine to do road tests at the Nürburgring. And yeah, whether the Nürburgring drove me to do that, like, you know, like my Precious or something, or whether I took a conscious decision to do that, I don't know. But by end of 2007, I was doing all my tests here. And then the magazine said, okay, you've kind of Nürburgringed us out now for the last 2 years. You're really bumming out the crowd.
Really?
Yeah. We need to like bring it back to the UK. Because originally I was doing these tests on a racetrack in the UK. But I thought it was bullshit. I thought it was like...
Too easy.
It's too easy. We're talking about the difference between a 1 minute 20 lap time and a 1 minute 21 being a big thing. People don't appreciate that. You take it to the Nürburgring and one bike is 10 seconds slower than the other bike. Immediately people are like, yeah, that R6 is 10 seconds faster. That's a cool bike. It gives it more gravitas to test it at the Nürburgring because of the length, because of you can talk about it. It makes awesome photos. You make a group test every month for 8 months, and every photo shoot is different with a different flavour, and it's at the same racetrack. You know, when I was testing in the UK, I was using a test track called Bruntingthorpe. It was an airfield in the middle of
completely flat,
in Lincolnshire, and it's just broken tarmac, and I was like, you know, you want me to make this look sexy?
And it's not even a real simulation of roads, because this is much closer to one of road fields.
To roads, yeah. Like if you want to know which bike is faster around an old airfield, then yeah, please pick up my magazine, Old Airfield Performance Bikes. So I was convinced it was the best thing to do. And to be honest, it started out also that the budget was pretty good, because instead of renting the track for like £1,000 a day, we were just buying lap tickets, which, you know, sorry Nürburgring, I was just data logging, doing lap times in tourist part, because that's what was okay back then. Nobody stopped me. They were like, oh, Dale, what bike have you got today? Oh, I've got the new GSXR 750. Oh, that's interesting. Can I take a photo with it? You know, pull out the digital Canon camera, 2 megapixels, and take a photo.
Like, they just put, like, now it's 2021, they just put extra steps. But the end result. So first of all, I don't understand why they are so against. Like, okay, I understand.
Yeah, I totally understand, and I'm happy to go on record. I'm happy to go on record and actually defend the Nürburgring
for the lap time.
I will be with you. By the way, funnily,
I'll go on record. So here's how it works, and it's really annoying, and it frustrates me massively. For example, did you see the videos that I put up on Bridge To Gantry and then took down again, where I was going to do performance testing of the cars? I had a conversation with the Nürburgring. They said, no, please don't do that. I said, okay, let's like just take performance out of it. It's just, you know, sexy car, slow car, whatever. If you make any kind of claim about performance on the Nordschleife, while it's STVO, wow, you're cracking the ice under an elephant that's standing on the ice right now. And any kind of drama, it might go one way and it might be like, no big deal, nobody noticed, or it might end up on some green politician's desk and he's like, do you know what they're doing? While STVO is running, while Polizei are there to check things out, wow, they're actually doing performance testing, and before you know it, somebody's insurance coverage is pulled, insurance coverage goes down the pan, somebody's multi-million-pound injury is being paid for out of the actual, you know, current account down Volksbank or wherever they keep their money, the Nürburgring, and then the whole thing's gone. Because it was owned by the state, and the state still owns the land, But the actual track is operated now by a private company, and everybody knows that if it went all the way to the highest court in the land,
it would be a problem.
It would be a problem.
It's a painful reality, and I don't think it even has to go there, because I believe that they have been sort of cracking down on it for a bit of a longer time. For us and for everyone out there, lapping, timing, and whatever, it is a very grey area. I don't think it is. It's even easy, to say this is okay.
It's not even a grey area. It's the fact that your own insurance policy will say that if you've got a lap timer in the car, it's just a question if you want to read it.
The same goes for track days in the UK,
absolutely. But the extra step I was talking about is that you're talking about not measuring in real time the lap time, but I can measure it after the fact. So that is allowed.
But they tried to stop this as well, because they said, okay, no filming at all allowed, which also, by the way, is impossible in 2021.
All you need to do is look at cases that have happened abroad in different countries, like in America and in the UK. And for example, if you've got a camera in the car, and they show that you had the purpose of testing performance, then your insurance is null and void. And all they have to show is in English, the word is intent. Okay. You were going out there and you texted your friend to say, mate, I'm going to go under 10 minutes today, just you watch. At that point, you can't drive your car around the track, regardless of what stupid lap timers, Harry's lap timer, whatever app you've got running on your fucking Apple Watch, whatever.
Yeah.
At that point, you've actually got the intent to go and break the law.
Funnily, I don't know anyone that hasn't done it.
Not
a single person.
I was literally running thousands of euros of data logging equipment to bringing 4 bikes every 2 weeks, and I was lap timing the shit out of it all. And in those days, honestly, I had friends who would park their cars in the tourist car park, jack them up, put the slicks on, drop them off, leave the wheels in the car parking space because it was so quiet that you didn't even feel bad about leaving your wheels in a parking space. You'd leave your luggage. You'd take the luggage out of your car and put it on slicks and go drive around, and nobody cared. There was race cars out there. I mean, one of my friends got knocked off his bike by an actual VLN race car with no number plates on it or anything.
We even seen this.
This
still happening in our years.
Yeah. It's just but this is
can we avoid?
This is like a bigger this is how the world has evolved. Correct. In a sense that it didn't really stop this. I agree, in this sense I am more in tune with you. All these extra set of rules, they didn't really make a difference factually. They just made a difference in the process. So people are still going out Banzai today. Actually, arguably, there is more people going out Banzai today than 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
100%. Totally agree.
The TF has never been this dangerous, yet at the same time, people are supposedly
he didn't say this. But
supposedly there are so many rules now that it should be safe because lap timer and all the cars are legal now.
We are walking into a discussion that is in the end is actually sad. And personally, it's one of the reasons that I don't drive a lot in TF. I don't think we should actually go in this conversation. But we are going into something that is completely out of our control. So no matter what we discuss,
of course,
we discuss,
we cannot change it.
Not only we cannot change it, but I think also except a very small circle of people that actually live here, and they sort of feel the repercussions. Everyone else is not really understanding. So I would say the majority of our viewers in the UK, they don't still, maybe because of our accents, they don't understand what we are talking about. What is the problem? Because they do their trips like normal, so they don't understand any of this.
In physics, there's a principle that you can look at it or you can know where it is.
Yeah.
You can know how fast it is or you can know where it is, right? That's the same problem with the Nürburgring. Because I feel a little bit guilty because when I made Bridge to Gantry, I didn't think that it would get, back in the day, it used to have 3 or 4 million hits a year.
Yeah.
And I feel a little bit guilty because before Bridge to Gantry, the track was a different flavour, right? The track was not known about and you were in a forum with maybe 100 users.
But when did you open Bridge to Gantry actually?
As an actual .com domain, I opened it in 2007. Before that, it was the back end to DaleLomas.com/Bridge to Gantry, and it ran as basically an Excel spreadsheet of lap times. Set in tourist spot. So, hypocrisy, here I come.
We have been all guilty. I said it beforehand, so we
But
don't.
actually, this is not hypocrisy. The fact that the world has changed and you have changed.
I've changed with it, yeah. I mean, people love to, one of the big criticisms I get on YouTube videos, on Facebook comments is, you're so hypocritical, why are you taking a stand against lap timing? You invented lap timing. It's like, how did I invent lap timing at the Nürburgring? Oh,
They did it in the Colosseum with horses, by the way. He didn't do it. He's not guilty.
You gave it a name, though.
I didn't know it was going to stick, in my defense.
I know, but arguably you single-handedly created the BTG measure of lap time.
So what you're making sure, just so you know, what he's making sure, if someone from the Nürburgring is watching this, he's just putting all
But
the
they're like
blame
20 years
on your
ago.
shoulders.
It's 20
Can you
years
please
ago.
stop? Can you respect our guest?
Okay, sorry.
I feel that our guest has been disrespected.
It's
and I
called
stop
Bridge
you.
to Gantry because it's about everything that happens between the bridge and the gantry.
Doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, cool, fair enough. But you were talking about your
I will interfere, and I want us to talk about two things. This is going the wrong direction. I actually want Dale to tell us a little bit about his MX-5. I might be the only one interested about this, but I actually am, so I want to talk a little bit about that. And then we can talk a little bit about the in-between steps, like between his biking career, and what's happening today. So I think let's talk MX-5 first, so we break a little bit the Nürburgring
Okay,
talk.
cool. Let's change completely. Let's flip this topic up on its head. And I owned an NA, he owned an NA, you owned an NA.
Yep. Still
We
my favorite.
have one big turbo. We are cool kids.
Cool. So how come you went? Actually, this is a funny thing. This is a question I wanted to ask in a way. So
Are you gonna let him talk or fucking
wait,
what?
shut up. How come you were
Sorry.
riding bikes and then?
Okay, so I did a lot of years testing the bikes at Bruntingthorpe, and as I moved up in seniority from just being like junior fuck puppet at the company to being the guy actually in charge of road testing, I realised that you can't just ride every single bike to the track. It takes a long time, right? You need like one of those vans. So I got my driving license very late when I was 23, 24 years old. And as soon as I got my driving license, I was at these test tracks and companies like Bentley and Dunlop were testing at the same time. And I was like, oh, that looks quite fun, cars sliding around, making big skids. I'm like, oh, cool, I'll do that. So my first car that I bought was a Cinquecento Sporting.
Oh,
Yeah.
one of the most dangerous cars ever.
Ridiculously dangerous. It's like doing 100 miles an hour in that car felt more dangerous than doing 100 miles an hour on any motorbike. In fact, I'd suggest that doing 100 miles an hour on a mountain bike, that would be the same level of danger as my Cinquecento Sporting. But none of that prevented me from taking it to a track day on like week 2 of owning the car. And I spent all day...
Cadwell.
Yeah, Cadwell, yeah. So went round Cadwell with it, overtook a TVR, and I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm going to be a racing driver.
We've all been
Well,
there.
eventually though.
Yeah. So after the Chink, I bought a Yaris, a 1.3 SR, which was quite rare. It has the JDM engine, high compression, over square. Obscure Toyota references now. Brought that to the Nürburgring, because I'd already been doing loads of laps on bikes. And one day, the Toyota Owners Club, which I was a member of the forum, because I was a forum warrior, I was like, yeah, I'll show you guys the Nürburgring. Follow me. Took my Yaris and went, wow, actually driving a car around the Nürburgring is like loads of fun. Very different to riding the bikes. And then I was like, right, I want a rear-wheel drive car. And do you know, there was this weird thing that one of the UNOSs in the original Gran Turismo was down as FF, not FR.
Okay, yeah.
And it was one of the fucking special editions. It was like V-Spec 2 or something. It was down as FF, so I had it in my head that UNOSs were fun, but definitely front-wheel drive. And then a mate of mine was like, what kind of knobhead are you? Look, there's the diff. Fuck. So I wanted one. I wanted to go rear-wheel drive. And then I took it I was at the test tracks, and I left it at the test track one day. I did a lot of logistics so I could leave my car at the test track. So when it started to rain, I was like, oh, well, I can't do any motorcycle testing today. I'll just drive my car because we've already paid for the test for the track time. And yeah, then I was like, suspension. I just went on that whole voyage of discovery that I'm sure we've all done of like, okay, so these tires are not working. This diff is not working.
But it's like, again, you came like maybe you came from bikes. Like you said it yourself, you didn't even know that the Mazda was rear-wheel drive to at some point in your life. So, which means that the whole travel of discovering it was completely out of the blue. Like it's not like you had this car in your head.
How you ended up with a turbo kit?
Sorry?
How you ended up with a turbo kit? So like being related green into it.
Yeah.
How you ended up turboing the car?
Oh,
Because for me that was of course. But for me that was a painful journey. So.
Yeah, it was. So basically, I had this plan in my head that I wasn't going to spend too much money giving the MX-5 any power. I was just going to leave it standard, and I was going to save.
In the corner.
And I was going to save my not even that, not even that. I was going to make it. Man. I was going to make it useful and reliable, and that I could do 1,000 laps a year with it, but I wasn't going to spend any money on anything. So. My plan was 2006. I'd got the contract to do all the stuff at the Nürburgring with the bikes. Got my friend to drive the car over for me. Car was here. I was like, right. By this point, I'd done lots of track days in the UK. I'd even bought a 400 horsepower drift car that I was driving and drifting in the UK. I was like, the MX-5 is now going to live at the Nürburgring. And this is going from like no license to planning my entire track car, having 2 track cars in 2 years. But anyway. So I dropped the MX-5 off. It's only going to run Nankangs and Kumhos and whatever I can get cheap off the eBay. Suspension-wise, I just got some second-hand Mazda speed adjustable dampers, so I could just adjust damping, not even spring platforms. Okay. And that went out the window. I blew a shock on the Nürburgring, so I'm like, all right, I'll get some HSDs, which were cheap at the time, €500 or something. So I got some HSDs. Spring adjustable, I'm like, ooh, this is nice. And I'm starting doing cambers, and I'm like working out caster, and I'm like learning about these things at the same time as doing it. And we're doing it all in Ron's workshop, you know. Okay. You guys are going home now, yeah? Yeah? 3 o'clock in the morning.
20 years have passed.
We kept the tradition alive, by the way, don't worry.
So then, it was about 2009 when I brought my friend over, John Moffat, who you probably have met. Hi, I'm John Moffat. Hi, John.
Hi,
John. So John, prolific fiddler and tuner.
Actually, more fiddler than anything.
Prolific fiddler. I think he should like have it on his business card.
Yeah, like I cannot leave anything standard. Like, I will not accept standard. Standard is bad. So he was talking to me about, maybe you should turbo it. And I was like, well, actually, I've done my research. The Mazda 323 has a turboed version of this engine, and it has the under piston oil sprays, etc., etc. It seems like a really good idea, but mechanically, I can't do it. And he's like, yeah, we can do it. So we did. so I buy this kit, right,
off eBay. Built by John Moffat and Dale Lomas.
Right? And nobody died.
Can you please not insult us?
No, it was not an insult. I'm saying like it would be like a car built by me.
First you put all the BDG blame in his shoulders,
and then like a car built by Gabby.
Exactly, it's the same thing.
We saw it recently.
I wouldn't trust.
I saw that.
I wouldn't trust a car built by me. Actually, the same thing. But it's interesting the story. I find it fantastic.
I bought the kit off eBay, right? I had this voucher off eBay that was 20% off.
Okay.
Do you know the weird codes? And do you remember when eBay was really early and they did these stupid loss leading stuff? So I bought this kit, right? I'm not even joking. It was called a Godspeed turbo kit.
That's what you
and I was like, well, this looks legitimate. It's got an adjustable fuel pressure regulator. To rewind just a second, my ECU went wild halfway through the 07 season, and it just started running really rich every time I went full throttle. So I mega squirted it because I wanted to learn about ECUs, and I said I'm going to keep it standard power, but I'm going to buy a mega squirt.
Been there, done that.
Then while you are at it,
and then while I was at it, I put on a wideband lambda so I could tune it better myself. And before you knew it, I took the car from
Yeah, so
I took the car
it
from...
only makes sense.
Yeah, it only makes sense. It was like 99 horsepower on the dyno.
Let me understand this, Dale. So it was for fuel economy, because this is what I understand. The end it was about fuel economy.
It was to drive it off
Fuel
boost.
economy, and I was worried because obviously the car was only ever getting used on track. It was always at 100% throttle, and it was basically, I was worried about ball wash, and I was worried about all kinds of things. So I had these great reasons. So I mega squirted it, and I've got the power up to like 108 horsepower at the rear wheels. NA on the 1.6.
Which is very cool for a...
Yeah, it was like 12 horsepower more than it was, just with the Mega Squirt. So then when the turbo kit came up, I was like, you know what, I can do this, because actually I've got wideband lambda, I've got Mega Squirt on it already, I've had those systems on for over 2 years at that point. So I knew the car like inside and out, and I was like, yeah, we can throw some boost on it. So we did, and it was like mental. We did it all in about a weekend. And at the time, I thought the car was running well. And I had no idea. I had no idea. So the boost would come in at like 5,000. Then it would fuel cut because I was like running way too much boost. After about a year of fiddling with it and also fitting a GM solenoid to the boost control circuit and like controlling the boost with the Mega Squirt, I can hands on heart say it was the best car I've ever built.
It is a very cool thing. I have been like exactly there.
Yeah.
Like I did, our path is quite similar. Like I put the Mega Squirt, then I turbo the car,
Yeah.
then I tuned it myself the first time.
Yeah.
Fantastic idea. It lasted for a year, but it wasn't a great idea in the long run. And when it was actually working, when you have like a turbo MX-5 with around 200 horsepower,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I had mine on the Maha dyno at 222. It was
Fantastic.
running about 13 psi, so about 1 bar, like 0.9, 1.0. And I really, really, really regret selling it.
Ah, you sold it?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Smart guy.
So,
This is what we...
I had a kid. I had this idea that I was going to get something a bit more club sport and that actually had a roof, because I took the roof off the MX-5. Like, I mean, not like I'd unfolded it. I mean, like I took it off and threw it away.
Okay, like we did.
The car was
Same
like,
here.
yeah.
Like hard
Just
top.
so you understand the club.
Okay, no hard top either.
No.
That's
Even
hardcore.
braver.
Yeah.
But just so you understand the club, if you haven't removed your roof completely from your
You don't deserve
MX-5, you
your
cannot
MX-5.
sit with us.
Yeah. So my MX-5 was like fully caged, bucket seats, harnesses, all kinds of stuff. And I used to keep a waterproof cover in the boot. And that when it rained and I had to park it, I would just put the waterproof cover on and secure it with...
Like a Porsche Speedster.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds solid.
It's a solid plan. And
Anyway, here it barely rains.
yeah, so then we had a kid. So then it's like, well, I can't take my wife and my kid on the racetrack. So I need a 4-door car, but I really like the Mazda. So I will sell it because the RX-8s were getting cheap, 3, 4, 5,000. And I thought I will sell the MX-5 to a friend in the UK who wants to buy it. And I know that he just wants to buy it to flip it and for more money, but he's going to bring me a cheap RX-8. So I got this RX-8.
You idiot.
Yeah.
The engine went.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm not buying it unless we've compression tested it. Warm and cold. I want warm and cold compression tests. It passed everything. My mate came, dropped off the RX-8 for me, drove the MX-5 back.
1 week.
Yeah, on the Sunday, I did the exchange of the car. On Monday, the new owner of the MX-5 picked it up off my friend Joe and flipped it 3 times over a stone wall in the middle of the Welsh mountains.
Oh, fuck.
Because it was on cold knackered semi-slicks and it made 220 horsepower at the back wheels and it weighed 980 kilos.
You need to drive it. It cannot drive itself.
Exactly.
Good thing you had a roll cage.
Yeah, the roll cage was the only thing that was like, you know, left. Yeah. Cusco roll cage, JDM type. Yeah.
So yeah, we have it now, pretty much. Biker guy moves to the Nürburgring because he loves it. Becomes the chief road tester for his magazine. He does all the testing here until the magazine tells him to stop doing it. Buys an MX-5 NA and turbos it eventually. And then he sells it for an RX-8 which breaks down, which gets sold for a 328. But we know there is more to you than all this. You have been a very accomplished taxi driver in the years. How did this happen? Like,
yeah.
through all this melting pot of stuff did you get yourself in
Anybody who's driven a taxi here at the Nürburgring will tell you the same story, right? The first day that you go drive a taxi at the Nürburgring, everybody else who's a taxi driver is like, who the does he think he is? How the did he get that job? what the hell has he ever done? And for me, that moment was 2008 when we secured a job with RSR to do a load of taxi laps for a bunch of guests from Dunlop.
Okay.
So Dunlop were like, yeah, we're going to throw you a load of slicks. You need to get some cool cars. Ron had a friend who had a GT3 Cup car. Ron wanted to drive his Alpha. So me as the second in command, I was like, so you're driving your GTV6 race car? Yes, only I can drive it. It's a very, very delicate race car. I'm like, cool. So I'll just take whatever other cars we've got, yeah? Yes, cool. I'll take that 996 Cup car. so at the time, like a 996 Cup was just off trend. It was like the 997 had just arrived and nobody really cared about the 996. So we had this GT3 Cup car. So I did taxi laps for that. And then a couple of months later, Nissan, we were doing the deal with Nissan and they were like wanting more taxi drivers. So I put my name in the hat for that. And I did a little training course at Silverstone, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, ended up driving the Nissan 350Z for Nissan for about 6 weeks. And I was doing that alongside, oh my God, I can see his face and I've lost his name, and he's a really important guy and I can't believe it. Anyway, can't remember his name right now, but lovely guy, was driving alongside him, and then a few weeks later, the project starts to wind down, and then all of a sudden Nissan say, oh my God, we need to do all these taxi laps still on the Nordschleife with the GTR. And they were like, oh, well, Dale was a really good taxi driver on the GP track, and I was like drifting this 350Z around, which in the first week was called a race taxi, but on week 2 of the 6-week project was already retitled in the program as the drift taxi.
Okay, this because you couldn't keep it in a straight line.
I couldn't keep it in a straight line. It was just way too... And we had 1 set of tyres per day. That was the budget.
Okay.
So as long as I kept the same set of rear tyres to the end of the day, so as we got closer to the end of the day, I would be checking the tread and figuring out how many more guests have I got. And like I would always come in with like pieces falling off the tyres off the last lap. Anyway, yeah, so then in 2008, I was doing the GTR on the Nordschleife for Nissan. And we then found a little bit of a business opportunity to do taxis in the VLN. And we used to take out some of the RSR cars. And yeah, it went from there. And then in 2014, I left Rent for Ring. And obviously, when you work, as you guys know, as anybody who's ever worked at any of these rental companies knows, tourist fart time is not your own anymore. Tourist fart,
No.
You can't do anything in it because you're just serving the customers. So in 2014, I left so I could do something else in tourist farting, which was actually the RingTaxi, to drive for Tio, who had just bought the name RingTaxi off an old dude in a village, 2 villages away. Okay. So yeah, and then that was it. That was it. I did that until 2017 when I scooped the Jaguar contract.
I think that was a very cool program, right?
Yeah, really cool, and it was contentious because what happened was, and I'm happy to go on record saying this, Nürburgring had the Jaguar, but they were only running it on Sundays. And there was some feeling inside Nürburgring and Jaguar that maybe like Nürburgring were maybe feeling like the car wasn't like a real good RingTaxi, and Jaguar were feeling like Nürburgring weren't doing enough with the car. And yeah, I was just really lucky. You know, Nürburgring landed a big AMG deal, and Jaguar were like, well, we've still got a license and we've got a car, but we've got nobody to run it. And that's where I stepped in. And then, yeah, did that for 6 months. Good trial, worked out, then took a 3-year license.
But did you run the whole program for them? Or? Oh,
yeah, so pitched it, did the spreadsheets, did the PDFs, did the PowerPoint presentations, stood there in front of global marketing directors and talked about what we could do.
It's fantastic.
And yeah, and it was cool. And we had a budget, you know. But also, I would say that the RingTaxi market between when I started 2008,
radically.
Yeah, 2008 to 2018 was a massive, crazy shift that, you know, if you're not a total Nürburgring nerd, you're probably not going to really appreciate this. But from the inside, looking out, it was unbelievable, the change in the market, because originally the RingTaxi was something you were basically playing a lotto ticket to get.
Yeah.
As a passenger, you were playing a lottery ticket to even get a place. You had to bang on the door and say, I'm here, and please, is anybody cancelled? And by 2014, we were the first company at RingTaxi to be able to say, we're opening the doors at 9 o'clock, come and book a RingTaxi. So we made bank 2014 through to 2017.
The golden years at race car. But I think also
this is where they were directly
inside the track.
We had a desk next to BMW RingTaxi.
Yeah.
That was the best spot. And actually, if you think that BMW wasn't aggressively pushing their taxi,
They weren't.
There was a golden opportunity. And
RingTaxi spent the last 2 years of their contract simply trying to fulfill all the vouchers that they'd sold in previous years. They didn't even do any marketing for it.
By the way, for everyone that is not, as Daily said, is not like an absolute nerd, one of the worst businesses you can do in your life is running taxi of any sort. And
no matter how much you charge,
the only people that they don't know this is the ones entering fresh in the business and the customers, because for the customers it's always
Hyundai also doesn't know about it apparently.
I'm pretty sure that they know enough people to know it.
They'll know about
they
it.
will know it eventually.
Because what's
can I say something?
Yeah.
I think the business side of things is always interesting, but not particularly interesting for me.
Not for us.
And probably not for them either. But the driving side of things, I think it is interesting. And I think RingTaxi, in my opinion, like in the M5 form with 4 people inside, I would even consider it borderline boring. But what we are having like currently, what we're having the last 3-4 years,
Sabine going sideways for people in the car.
That's the difference. Doing it with a cool person, it's always cool. But as far as car goes, we never had crazier taxis. Actually, half of these taxis, they cannot even run at their price. They cannot even run at cost.
I don't know because right when I was coming here first few years and I was having fun at the Nürburgring and seeing these cars go around, there was a taxi called the Zach Speed Viper Jet.
Yeah, that's true.
Now
I take
you have to take everything back you said about taxis not being exciting, because back in 2005. You're going around the Nürburgring on your semi-slick motorcycle tyres with your 170 horsepower at your right wrist, and you think you're the fastest thing there, and then the fucking Edo competition Porsche is coming up behind you, and you think, fuck, this thing's fast, right? And then the Viper Jet moves you both out of the way. Peasants, get off my track. Vroom! V10, manual gearbox, like 600 horsepower. The thing was fucking crazy and awesome. And as a passenger in it, you just felt like you were going to die. Like the whole lap, you felt like you were going to die.
I always find it extremely weird because the vast majority of customers doing taxi lab don't really know the track almost at all.
No,
so
that's
like
true.
for them,
but the market changed there as well. So,
yeah, I can imagine.
So the market used to be people who'd never been to the Nürburgring and they'd randomly open their birthday presents and go, oh, I'm going to the Nürburgring? Yeah. Well, that sounds fun. And then by 2017, and my marketing through Bridge To Gantry was to existing customers, then they were just getting to see the same track that they knew, but from a cool car.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a weird step change in the whole taxi business. For my business, it was a lot of people who had been on the track before, but they wanted to see it from the eyes of somebody with a 200,000 euro car, and that doesn't have to pay for that 200,000 euro car, which is a unique place to be in life.
Experience. But I think this is why it's a bad business, because the driver driving the car doesn't need to care, generally speaking, although I also had the pleasure of driving a taxi.
Yeah.
While on the paper, it's not your car and you could do whatever, in the reality of life, you basically
there's always consequences.
Yeah,
there's always consequences.
You are under scrutiny because if the brakes last only 3 laps, you're gonna have to explain yourself.
And this is where the pleasure doesn't really.
No, exactly.
And also, for me, there are 2 distinct sides to the RingTaxi business. Okay, there's the factory OEM taxi business, and there's everybody else who thinks that they're some sort of big shot. Because
I had the same.
I have run my own taxis as businesses, and I have worked for the manufacturers. Okay, when you have a manufacturer budget, you are saying at the start of the year, I'm going to use 3 fucking containers full of Pirellis.
Yeah.
There's the budget for that. I'm going to do a tire change. I'm going to do a spanner check. We're going to do everything every day. The Jaguars, for example. Some of the most highly qualified mechanics and technicians in the entire company were responsible for my cars. And if I even heard something that I didn't like, if the exhaust note changed, we'd have the computers on it and the car would be like in open heart surgery overnight, ready for the next day. And when you compare that to any other company around here who's running a taxi for money and they're trying to make money on that taxi, man, it doesn't compute. Ceramic brakes. If I got a stone scratch on the ceramics on the F-Type, which happened a lot in that stupid gravel car park, I would take the car back, and in 10 minutes we'd have 12,000 euros in new ceramic discs on the car.
Yeah, it's impossible to run it as a business.
And there goes the profit of 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. There goes the profit of the whole year.
Like
for
I had
some
the
of
same
these guys.
experience. Like with I had a day with Bilstein, and we were running AMGs. But since we wanted to carry a lot of people, we had E-classes, etc.
Yeah.
And those cars are insane fast, but of course they weigh, with 4 people in, they are very close to 3
2.4,
tons.
2.5.
Yeah, maybe even more. And the brakes tend to not last very long. And they say, no problem, we have 20, 30, 40, 50 sets of brakes here for a day. Go out, drive as fast as you can, don't crash if you can, and that's it.
Yeah.
Actually, crashing is a big...
Crashing is really bad. That was my big, we called it the Christmas tree. And if there's an accident or an incident or a problem, the Christmas tree lights up from the bottom to the top, and at the top is basically the CEO. Because if it happens at the Nürburgring, it's pretty bad news. It gets around really quickly. Crashing
is a big no-no, yeah.
Big no-no.
But like as I said, like even driving, maybe this is I don't know how people can relate to this, but even driving taxi, like for a company that needs to sort of sustain it as a business, or at least not to lose too much money on it, it's not particularly interesting for the driver either, because you're just concerned about not using the car too much, which eventually puts you in a weird spot, because you are out there, and since you are in the taxi, the people around you expect you to be quick, and they want to sort of race with you, but you can't race with them because of course because you can't full stop, but also because you cannot push the car anything close to its limit. So, and then people put it's a weird thing.
Can I say it so you don't have to say it?
Yeah.
If you out there are trying to race the people working in taxis, you are a fucking moron. You are making their life difficult. They have nothing to prove.
Exactly.
They have nothing to prove. Probably, there are a few exceptions, but if they arrive there, they kind of know what they are doing. They have nothing to prove. The majority of them, they're actually trying to make a living. They don't want to destroy these cars. And if you're out there racing them, instead of making fun for them, you are actually making them a bit miserable.
Yeah, it's a little bit...
They always have a bit of more pace that they can use. They don't use it for obvious reasons. Don't be a moron.
Let's talk stereotypes, right? You guys have got years and years and years in the rental business, okay? I too have many years in the rental car business. There's like this stereotype that the guy, do you remember that stupid video I made with the animation of the guy who rents the track car, the American guy? Yes, but I have a Porsche Turbo Cabriolet. Yeah. It's that dealing with that on a daily basis. If you don't laugh with it, you are gonna go home and open up the arteries.
Absolutely.
And so one day, I'm here at Ep.011. I get a phone call. Hi, I find myself here in Frankfurt, and I've always wanted to drive the Nürburgring. Can I get to the Nürburgring today? I'm like, yeah, it's like 1 o'clock. I guess if you get a rental car right now, hit the road, you'll be here plenty of time for TF. TF starts at 5 o'clock. Oh, that sounds super. That's great. I'll be on my way straight away. Thank you very much. Guy arrives, parks his rental car up on the field there outside Ep.011, comes down. He's in full uniform. I mean, the sand is like dropping out of his boots, okay? He's on a military transfer going home, and he's found himself for 12 hours in Frankfurt, and he's like, I'd love to drive the Nürburgring. Cool idea, right? At that time, we just had Suzuki Swifts, all manual gearboxes. I said to the guy, can you drive stick? Sure I can. Yeah.
Sounds promising.
Yeah. And of course, we do the paperwork, we do the briefing. The briefing here with me is like 20 minutes. I explain everything to him. I said, look, do you want some coaching? No. I'm like, look, there's not much happening tonight. I'll come out with you. No. Don't want any coaching. I don't respond well to pressure. I just want to drive around really slow. He says all the right things. I say, okay, no problem. I come back in. I get behind my little sales counter, and all I can hear outside is vroom, vroom. Vroom! And I'm like, whoa, what's going on out there? I go outside and there's just this guy with both hands on the steering wheel going, vroom! Vroom!
It's not going, mate.
It's not going anywhere, is it? And then I go and knock on the window and I'm like, hey mate, everything good? Yeah. He says, there's pedals down here. I'm like, yep, it's a manual gearbox. Oh, gee. I thought you were in the army. Don't you drive Humvees and stuff? No, I'm not a driver. No. I'm like, do you have a driving license? I'm sure I saw a driving license. Oh, yeah. I got my driving license years ago. I'm like, yeah. Do you drive much? Nope. nope. Like, this is a manual gearbox. Yeah, he says the gear shift doesn't shift. I'm like, no, because you have to put the clutch in. Oh, shit. When you said stick, I thought you meant like the gear shifter is a stick. I'm like, yeah, I can see.
As opposed to what?
As opposed to
A ball.
a ball, a column shift, a dial in a Jaguar.
Man,
Look.
know your car.
Look. Listen.
And as it turns out, you know, I couldn't help that guy. But after that day, we made sure we got automatic.
Actually, you know, this story gives me a brilliant idea, and you don't go anywhere like for the next foreseeable future, because we are gonna do an episode exclusively based on rental car stories.
We are not gonna do this.
We
are not gonna do this.
Hilarious episode, because the stuff that we've seen, you would not believe it.
I've got some good ones when I used to work over that way.
I can imagine.
The jump at the foxhole was my favourite. He got the jump at the foxhole wrong. Yeah, the guy in the Clio. So I had my company car, you know the Ron Simon's company car policy.
Yeah.
So I had the car I was responsible for, and it was a really nice little Clio 197 when they were brand new. And this guy, young kid, 20 years old.
You know the story.
Yeah, his dad was like vouching for him. His new wife, right?
He had in the car, correct?
He had in the car, yeah. Everybody was telling us, don't you worry. We know he's under 21, but he's a really sensible guy. He's going to listen to everything. In the briefing, I could see that he was like this.
Okay.
Like there's stuff on the TV over there. I'm talking and he's like that.
Man,
I'm in school again. That's this guy talking to me.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like being an lecturer at university, you know? The lecturer's going blah, 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 blah.
like Homer Simpson, like the monkey in the brain, like with the... Exactly.
Yeah, and 8:06, 8:07 a.m. it was when the track went red, and it was him on the first lap, and he'd gone like literally flat out through the foxhole. Literally flat out.
To the top?
Yeah, because he thought the top of the foxhole was the same as the top of the Flugplatz.
Okay.
Because he got his PlayStation lap confused in his head, and he thought there was going to be a jump at the top of the foxhole. So he lined it all up.
Well, there was one, actually. Yeah. I think by doing it flat out...
He lined it up right.
I think by doing it flat out, he actually made it a jump. So.
He made it into a jump. He hit the barrier on the right, and somehow before the FIA fences.
Sorry.
Yeah. He went over, and his missus was hurt. He was hurt. Yeah, she broke something. Everybody came out of it. In the long run, you know, everybody was fine.
Like minor injuries. I know it's
minor
not fun
injuries.
to talk about this stuff, but this stuff can happen.
But again, it's Dunning-Kruger effect, isn't
Yeah,
it? Because he didn't know how
know
dangerous the Nürburgring is because he hadn't done a lap yet.
Like the craziest story, I know this can go on forever, but then that's it. I have one crazy story. Like I have many, but I have one that is to me it still rings so clear in my head. It's like I was in a track day coaching with a customer in a fast car, like an M3 V8. So it's a fast car. We do the first lap and everything is okay. Like it seems like everything is okay, and then we go. Second lap, everything looks like it's okay. So it's a track day. So we're doing the Döttinger Höhe and Antoniusbucke like quick, and then all of a sudden the third lap we do Antoniusbucke. We're going flat out. We do Antoniusbucke and we go completely in the grass, like on the right, completely in the grass, like off track. And I completely unexpected, like I wasn't ready for it. And then I like wake him up effectively, and he goes back on track, and we don't crash. And he says, "What?" I tell him, what happened? Like, what's happening? I said, we should stop right now. Or like, I was a little bit panicking at the time. And he says, yes, I forgot to tell you, but I have ADA.
Attention deficit. Oh, wow. And he actually experienced it at 300 kilometers per hour
At the fastest part
on a racetrack.
Yeah. I said, oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, but I have this condition, I have ADA.
Oh, wow.
And he told me, no, it wasn't a problem.
And it's like, sometimes I have this problem. I said, yeah, but I told him, but he could have killed us.
I had a guy at Spa who had narcolepsy.
That's hardcore.
But the other story is also very cool.
Narcolepsy on a racetrack.
Very sorry, I don't remember.
And narcolepsy is where...
For a different story.
Yeah, he just fell asleep. He just fell asleep on the straight. So we were accelerating past the start-finish line on the F1 start-finish straight. About halfway down the start straight, he just comes off the gas. I'm like, oh, you can keep, and I'm sitting there on the passenger seat shouting at him.
You can go.
I'm like, you can stay on the gas. And he's like, and he's asleep. I woke him up by like hitting his knee, and he woke up and he braked, and we just stopped super safe. There was no dramas or danger in it at all. But it was just like, wow. I said, you fell asleep there, didn't you? And like, and he's like, yeah. He says it's a stress reaction. I'm sorry. I'm like, so you're stressed?
Yeah, because the narcolepsy is a stress reaction.
Yeah,
thing.
stress reaction. Crazy. And he said, I didn't think I was going to get that stressed. I said, does anybody know about this? Oh, yeah. I said, you didn't think of telling us this? I signed the disclaimer. It's my fault if I crash. I'm like, yeah, but I'm sitting with you.
But this is crazy.
You are instructor. You are disposable.
We're closing this off. And I think
clearly don't look like
no, but the problem is, I think I have an answer to why these people don't communicate these things, and this is why people don't say I cannot drive shift. Is that because males, especially males, cannot accept to do bad two things: sex and drive cars.
That's
so
it.
If you ask a male,
and in this place, both.
Right, it's an ego thing. Like they cannot accept the fact.
Sterling Moss in the 1950s instructing here at the Nürburgring on the Scuderia Hanseatic. He was interviewed by a magazine journalist from a UK car magazine, and he said, well, exactly what you said almost, but he framed it slightly differently. He said, trying to teach a man how to drive his own race car is like trying to teach a man how to make love to his own wife. And I just thought, wow.
That's
you know what? That was in the 1950s, and already, the car industry was only 50 years old at that point. And there's a legend like Sir Sterling Moss just framing it perfectly, and that is the struggle that we're living to this day.
Yeah,
nothing's changed.
Absolutely. Like, there is this kind of resistance.
But what you say is correct as well. This is unfortunately a very common thing. People cannot accept what they cannot do, and not in the cool way that they keep improving, the other way.
Most people, unfortunately, the other way.
I would say this is a fantastic conversation, and I'm 100% sure that we have enough experiences that we could go for a couple of hours, and it will not get boring, because actually the more we talk, the more we're going to remember stories, and it's gonna be even more interesting.
All right, Dave. To close this podcast finally off. You've been here the longest among us three. You've been here way before me, we said it.
Yeah.
You were even an inspiration to some extent for me, at least. And you have seen the highs, you've seen the lows. We have our own opinion about the place.
Yeah.
To be fair, we have been are a bit cynical sometimes about the place because we've seen also the negatives of it. And it would be just nice, to wrap it up, if you could say to your younger self what to expect in his next 15 years at the Nürburgring.
Or if there is something that you would do differently through your...
If there's one thing I'd do differently, I'd try and give myself a warning about that coronavirus thing that comes, maybe not to start any really big contracts with lots of overheads just before coronavirus starts. That would be a bad business move. Don't do that, Dale. But other than that, I would say that, obviously... history, those that ignore history are doomed to repeat history. History is cyclical, and at the Nürburgring you find the same story littered around the racing paddock, around the tourist car park, and it's really easy to become that next story of sadness and woe and regret and of burnout as well. So try and be true to yourself. Don't change too much. And at the same time, try and take as much advice as you can so you don't end up one of those dead-end roads that we see so many times at the Nürburgring. I love the Nürburgring. Nürburgring is life for 2-3 years, and then upside down on the outside of Schwedenkreuz in a car that's not insured with no income, and then, wow, gone. I've had some big barrier damages. I've had some big crashes. I've lost cars. One piece of advice... never take a car onto the Nürburgring that you can't walk away from.
That goes well to what we discussed.
Yeah,
we say this often. People laugh at us, especially when you're here for some time, and people offer you, throw you keys of all these cool things, and you say, no problem, I can drive that. It's not that
but
you
I'm not
cannot
going to drive it
fast.
fast. If I'm going to drive it fast, I'll take my Yaris on track, because if I crash that Yaris, it's going to hurt me and it'll be annoying, but it won't end my life. If I borrow my friend's GT3 RS and crash it,
Absolutely,
mate, that's game over, isn't it? So yeah, it's tricky. You need to have all those bases covered, and don't ever forget that whatever shit can go wrong can and will go wrong because it's the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
Deep inside, when you're out there driving, which I know that for us it might look like we do it all the time.
Yeah,
normally a lie.
it's not like that.
Normally
no.
a lie for us as well. When you're out there and driving, the few times that this happens through the season, still love it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't matter whether I'm in the Yaris, in my friend's Volvo, or whatever. If I'm out there and driving's fun.
After how many laps? How many years and how many laps?
20,000+ laps.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you still love
A
it.
good number.
Still love it. Yeah.
And I think this is the thing that makes us this is the common point that we surely all three have, is that no matter how many laps, no matter the negatives, no matter the experiences, that when we finally get into it and get on it, we just love it and we cannot get enough. And this is why most people come here for the dream.
Yeah.
But to build on what you said, I think if you come here just with a dream, you might not be ready for the place. So you need to come here with a dream, and that cannot be your only motivation.
A dream and plan and research.
Yes, a little bit of that.
And try to listen to as much advice as possible. Even if you don't consider the person saying it credible, listen everyone. You have something to learn from literally everyone. It has been an awesome chat.
Absolutely.
Any last thing that you want to plug, like whatever?
Yeah, follow my channel BTG Dale, and also feel free to rent a car off me at Rent for Ring, and that's pretty much it. That's the only two things that make it that keep my kids in clothes.
Guys, make sure that you get on Bridge To Gantry, and make sure that it's one of the resources you check for all Nürburgring. It has been the one stop for me
for a very long time.
For a very long time, and it is still very much relevant. So do it.
Good stuff. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dale. It was amazing.
Thank you.